So I was recently in the market for a new SITKA mid layer. Problem that I had was when I went to the website, there's a lot of options. It's pretty hard to navigate. I have with me today 3 of the options. This is the heavyweight hoodie, this is the ambient hoodie, and what I'm wearing is the traverse hoodie. I'll start with talking about the different technologies, I guess, of each mid layer and how they work. So a grid fleece, a lot of companies offer them. It's a very popular type of mid layer for a reason. It's fairly packable, it's fairly lightweight, it dries quick, and it's very comfortable while still being a warm piece of gear. What is special about grid fleece over normal fleece is the grid design allows for more air to be on the skin side or the inside of the garment. That air is what insulates you. When you're moving, the grid gives a lot of thin spots and it allows that air, that hot air, to move away from your body, and then you cool off a lot quicker. This is not at all windproof. If you're wearing this as an outer layer, it better be warm outside, or you better be moving a lot, because this will not keep you warm if you're stopped glassing and it's a little chilly out. It will keep you warm underneath any sort of wind-breaking layer. I've liked the warmth of this layer, but it's definitely not the warmest mid layer that you're gonna find. The insulation on the ambient hoodie is definitely worth talking about. It's their flagship mid layer, I think, their active insulation. It's got a nylon outer and then a polyester kind of a fuzzy inner. Super lightweight, super packable, and what it does is when you are stopped, when you're not moving, when you're moving a bit, at the truck, putting your pack on, loading your gear, this inner fabric, this inner fleece style polyester is gonna hold all that hot air, and the nylon outer is gonna trap it in just enough to where it keeps that nice layer of insulation on you, similar to a down coat. Now the difference between this and a down coat is that that nylon outer is very thin. It's very porous. You can actually see through it. You know, you hold it up to the sun and there's light coming through it. So as soon as you start moving, you're gonna be compressing in a way that material. You're gonna have a little more airflow going through your garment, and that's gonna expel that heat right away. So this morning I started out in this and a base layer, and it was 20 degrees at the parking lot. We hiked up here about a mile, and I never once got sweaty in this. Forrest, who's with me, he started out in a grid fleece, a little chilly at the truck, a little bit sweaty coming up. So this is just a exaggerated version of that active insulation is what they market it as. Really, it's just a different way to manage the air next to your body. The traverse is in a little bit of a different category. So this one's 15 ounces, this one's 13 ounces. I'd say that difference is negligible. The traverse is 29 ounces, so it's significantly heavier, but it's also a genuinely warm mid layer. So when we got to the top here, I was wearing this, and I stopped. I was recording Forrest for a little while. I took this ambient jacket off, put the traverse on, and I was immediately warm. So this is significantly warmer than either of these, even though when you look at their website, they all are like they got the 3 little dots in the warmth category. This is a lot warmer. It's also a little more windproof. That's gonna make a huge difference in warmth. Neither of these are windproof. If you have either of these as an outer layer and there's a cold wind coming through, you're gonna be cold. There's a couple more things I wanna cover, so I'm gonna jump back to the studio. We'll look at fit, we'll talk about price, and talk about what's actually worth purchasing. We'll start out with the heavyweight hoodie. As I said before, I think it's a little bit misnamed because it's probably their least warm mid layer. My first impression of it, it fits great. It looks really nice, especially when you get it brand new. It's just a classic grid fleece, right? It's pretty simple. You got one pocket here. The arm length is good. The waist length is good, and it fits me really nicely. Now this is a medium. So normally I'm a large. I actually went to the medium on this because I've got the arm length and I have a smaller chest. It's got good torso length, so I was happy about the fit with the medium. My lasting impression is that it pills up, which Honestly, when you're paying this much for a grid fleece, it's a bit of a bummer when after a couple of uses it starts to pill. I took this on 3 different hunts this year, and the pilling makes it look a little lower quality. So that's a bit of a bummer. Doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, I'm looking for a good mid layer. The use for this is going to be pretty all-encompassing. It's a medium weight, medium heat piece of gear. When I was in Kodiak, it was a fairly warm day, there was no rain, and I was wearing this with a base layer, and it was perfect. It is their cheapest mid layer, and it performs great. It fits great, it looks good. I appreciate all of those things, and I own this piece, and I'm very happy with it. It's definitely coming with me on a lot of hunts. Okay, on to the Ambient hoodie. My first impression wasn't great, if I'm being honest. It's a thin, lightweight, borderline see-through piece of gear that it just doesn't feel that good initially. Like this inner insulation, there's a lot of space in between. It feels cheaply made. If I wasn't educated, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is really cheap insulation, and this exterior is gonna rip right away. My lasting impression is that this actually works. I wanted it to be a sales gimmick. I wanted to look at it, feel it, say this is no good. They're just trying to sell you on something. It's not true. It genuinely works. It works better than the grid fleece, and I think every way. And you're looking at about 2 ounces lighter, a similar pack size. It's a better performing piece of gear. What I don't like about it is the fact that it doesn't fit that good. So it doesn't look that good. And granted, I'm not out there to look good. That's not my goal, obviously. I'm out there to hunt. But the sleeve length is not great. I felt like the armpits were kind of baggy when I lift my hand up. So if I'm in a glassing position, my sleeves got really short. Unlike the heavyweight hoodie that fit me nice, snug, everything was good and it didn't move around as I moved. This is kind of a loose, I don't know if you can see, it's got kind of a baggy, poofy bottom to it. It doesn't look that good. It does feel good. It feels fine on the trail. I don't notice anything other than the shorter sleeves, but keep in mind this is a large. So I'm a medium in the heavyweight hoodie, I'm a large in the Ambient hoodie, and it's still too short for me in the sleeves. Little goofy there. But, like I said, the performance of this piece, the actual fabrics and materials are great, and the fit, it doesn't look that great, but it does perform well. I don't notice any sort of restriction. It's loose enough that I can move around, and when I'm actually hunting, when I'm walking with this, I don't notice it a bit. As far as use goes, I would say you use it every time that you would use the heavyweight hoodie. This would be a better option, aside from maybe going out to dinner. I think this is a piece of gear, if I did own it, I would have it in my pack on every hunt. It really does perform. Like I said, I was starting out this morning in 20 degrees at the truck, this with a base layer, all the way to hiking up with a backpack. And where the backpack was contacting my back, it was noticeably wet. So I was creating sweat, but armpits, everything else stayed perfect. So it's kind of hard to argue. Even though the fit's not great, it really does perform. The big downside is the cost. It's about $110 more than the heavyweight hoodie. Is it worth it? I think it depends on your budget. Spend what you can. Personally, I own the heavyweight hoodie. I love it. Now I have on the Traverse hoodie. My initial impression when I picked up this piece of gear was this thing is heavy and this thing is warm. The Ambient and the grid fleece, very breathable. It manages heat well under a soft shell, but if you use it as an outer layer, that wind's going straight through it, you're gonna be cold. This is different. The wind doesn't cut through it nearly as much. It doesn't have that active insulation. You've got a lot more material on here. Like I said before, this is 29 ounces versus 15 and 13 ounces. So there's a lot more material. You also have a little bit more restrictive movement just in the elbows. It feels like a heavier jacket more than a mid layer. It's gonna breathe a little less. It's gonna dump heat less when I'm moving. Unlike these two, which are designed to hold heat, dump heat when you're moving. This is just designed to hold heat. If you're looking for a versatile mid layer, something you can take on every single hunt, this is not what you're gonna want. This is probably a late season only piece of gear because it's not super packable, it's not super lightweight. One thing I will say compared to these other two mid layers is this one's probably gonna be a little more durable when you're walking through brush and whatnot. Like I said, the grid fleece pilled up. The Ambient hoodie, it does better than the grid fleece, but I noticed a couple spots already where a tiny little prick caused some fabric to come out. It's durable for what it is. It's lightweight. You do have to be careful with it. This seems a little more sturdy, if you will. Again, your cost is the weight. Now for actual cost, this one is about right in between these two. So like I said, if you're looking for something that's going to be an all-season mid-layer, you're going to want to go with the heavyweight hoodie or the Ambient if you can afford it. If you're looking for something to be a late season, warm mid-layer, this is what you're going to want to look at. I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, please like and subscribe to our channel. It'll help us put out more videos like this. Our goal is to just help consumers make the right choice. Like I said, when you go to SITKA's website, their mid-layers can be fairly confusing. So to recap, I would say this is the most budget-friendly, the least warm, but still very functional mid-layer. This is the most expensive and the highest performing. And then this is right in between the two on cost, and it's by far the warmest, but the least breathable.